Hello and welcome to Throwback Thursday. Today I want to talk to you about preparing your horse to ride, and this is appropriate for a horse that hasn't been ridden for a long time, or a horse that is maybe a bit fresh or something like that. And we all do something in preparation to ride, and because it's Throwback Thursday, I wanted to talk to you about various different things over the years that I have tried and the things that I've most commonly seen people do, because people come to me for a lesson or something, and the things I've seen them do before they jump on the horse to have the lesson. And I want to talk to you about these things and why I don't use them anymore, and why I would recommend you don't use some of them either. And we'll just go through them. So I've come up with 4 of the sort of most common things I've found. The first one is lunging, or working on a long line, like a 12-foot line or something like that, just having the horse work around you on a line. The second one is round pen use. And the next one is walking around. So if you're going to a new instructor for a lesson and you walk your horse all around the arena, that's another one that's really common. And the final one is getting to an exercise such as, the most common one I've seen is either stop and stand, or step forward, step back, step forward, step back. So those are the 4 I'm going to talk about today. And I'm just going to run through the reasons that I don't use them, even if I did before, why I changed my mind and I use something else now. And at the end, I'll talk about what I do use. So with the lunging one, I just want to talk about that in relation to lunging in a halter or a head collar. Or a bridle with one rein, just basically lunging with one rein, no tie downs, no side reins, nothing like that, just the lunging with one rein. And it's something you see really commonly at shows in the warm-up arenas. A lot of people are lunging their horses around and around and around. Now, my problems with that are many and varied, but basically the horse has no focus. So what you're really trying to do with the horse is get rid of that excess energy. Now, if you're then going to get on and try and teach the horse something, you've just wasted all that energy. And by the time you do get on, especially if your horse is very fresh or has been off for a long time, you're unlikely to have any mental or physical energy left. So learning goes out the window. And the horse is going to become rather resentful if that happens on a regular basis as well. The other problem with that sort of lunging is that you can't enforce downward transitions. So if you've got your horse on a single line like that and it's in canter and you ask it to trot, if it doesn't trot, there's not much you can do about it apart from reef on its head, which you obviously don't want to do. So that makes it counterproductive as far as teaching the horse anything as in downward transitions goes, that's for sure. Also, you're not building the correct muscles. A horse being lunged on one line is usually head high and hollow backed. So then you get on, and what you want the horse to do is put its head down, relax, lift its back up, elevate its shoulders. And you've just been building all those muscles on the underside of the horse rather than all those muscles along its top line. So you're building wrong muscles. The horse can easily buck in that position as well on the long lines, and they often, on the one lunge line or one on a short line, a 12-foot line, they can buck, and that often becomes a habit. So the horse gets into that habit of getting on the line before you get on. You put the saddle on, you put the horse on the line, you run it around a little bit, get that energy off it, it has a little buck, and then you get on a ride. Well, tomorrow when you can't lunge it for some reason, it might still have the little buck when you go into canter. So it's a habit that you're teaching the horse. Horse is also most often bent to the outside of the circle. If you watch horses lunging on a single line, their head is usually bent to the outside of the circle, not the inside of the circle. So again, you're teaching something you don't want the horse to know, because you really never want the horse bending to the outside like that. And also they're often motorbiking, so they're leaning right in, dropping that inside shoulder and bent to the outside. It's not really the type of posture you want to be training. And finally, the thing that I find really difficult about lunging a horse is the fact that you really often have to chase them. And especially if you've ever come across a lazy horse, if you've ever lunged a lazy horse on one line, They don't want to go. They're not interested. And, you give them a nice little canter kiss or something like that. And they go, oh, yeah, no, thanks. I don't really want to. And so what ends up, you end up having to chase after them with the whip or generally run after them. And so then you're actually teaching them to be afraid of you or the whip or the rope or whatever it is you're chasing them with. All in all, chasing your horse is never a good idea. So it's also really easy to teach the horse to repeat the flight instinct, which again, the more you repeat something, the more likely the horse is to offer that as a possible response next time. So when you're riding next time and the horse doesn't quite understand, if it's been offered and it's got away with the flight response, or that's been an appropriate response because it's been released from pressure, then it's more likely to respond with that in the future. So you're making that more likely to occur. So let's move on to the round pen and the reasons why I don't use that anymore. Now, I used to use the round pen quite a lot, but only to teach inside and outside turns and to teach the horse to come to me. And what I've found with the round pen is it's a very misunderstood tool, and people often actually just use the round pen to chase the horse and to tire the horse out in the same way as they do lunging. So those two things fit together quite well because they're often used for the same purpose. The round pen doesn't need to be like that, and there are specific things that you can do in the round pen that are very useful for your horse's training, but chasing never is. And I think one of the hardest things to do in the round pen is to not chase your horse. And I remember when I first started, because I had never really seen a round pen before I went to America and John and Josh Lyons, and that was in 2001. And so the first day I was sort of looking at my ground control manual because, we didn't have videos like this in those days. We couldn't watch it. We used to have to read it all. So I got my ground control manual out and I was reading, okay, the horse is here, I'm here, you do this, you do that. I was like, oh my God, here's me with this poor horse in the middle of the round pen. It's clearly so confused. And every now and then I'd dash out to the game, have a look in my manual again. And yeah, okay, I'll go and try that. I'll do that again. Anyway, by the time I actually got to do it, I remember Josh came up to me I was about 5 minutes in, and he said, Kate, stop chasing the horse. I was like, I'm not chasing the horse. He goes, yes, you are. Look at you. You're walking around behind it. You're chasing it. Stop it. I said, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I am chasing the horse. So I stopped. He came back about 10 minutes later and he said, oh, Kate, your lesson is so boring. Go on, make it more interesting. And I was like, wow, okay, that was my first introduction to it. It is more difficult than it looks. You do have to make it interesting. You cannot chase the horse, and you have to teach it something useful. Don't let it trot around the outside. It's a complete waste of energy, and by the time you get on, the horse is going to be tired. The other problem in there, of course, is that they can buck, and because you're in a round pen, it also is a big injury risk, because if the horse does buck and hits the panels or something, it can do some damage, and that can be really nasty. Again, you can enforce downward transitions in the round pen, but you have to outside turn to do that, and that can be sort of quite aggressive from the horse's point of view. So if the horse is cantering and you want it to trot and you ask it to trot and it doesn't, the only way you can really get it to trot is to step in front of it to stop its forward motion, and that can feel like being chased as well. And obviously that also blocks the horse, so the horse can then feel blocked and might turn around and take flight in the opposite direction. So it is quite hard. It's quite hard to control the horse's emotional level under those conditions. Obviously it has its place and it has its uses. And for the completely unhandled horse, and Brumbies and Mustangs and that sort of thing, it can be fabulous, but you do have to use it with care. The other one, which I used to see a lot at my place, was people walking their horse around. So they come to a new arena and you've got your horse and you're going to have a lesson. And my arena was particularly interesting because there were all sorts of little hidden places around the arena. Kangaroos used to sleep under a tree somewhere. And so you would see the lovely owners walking their horses around, and basically they would show them all the scary things around the arena. And they and the horse would spend the next hour during their lesson making sure that all those scary things were still where they should be, which does rather take the focus off the lesson and onto what's outside the arena. And finally, I talked about step forward, step back, or just stand. And I've seen this quite a bit too. The stand one is an interesting idea because it's trying to get the horse to be obedient. It's trying to get the horse to listen to what you're doing. But the problem with it is it's going completely against what that horse probably wants to do. So if you take a horse to a new environment, the horse wants to move. And if the horse is just standing there, like the horse we were discussing earlier this week, like the giraffe horse who's looking at something scary, you actually probably want that horse to move its feet rather than just stand there, because the likelihood that it will explode is much larger if it's not moving its feet. So the other problem with when the horse does walk forward, when you've asked it to stand, you then have to back it up. And to get it to back up, you're all the time weighting the hind end of the horse, so you're all the time encouraging the front end forward. And given that, I can teach a horse to rear in 3 minutes flat, 3 minutes, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be weighting the back end too much with a horse that's already anxious for some reason. I think you're much better off having the horse go forward. So that's the end of the 4 that I wanted to talk about. So what's your alternative? Well, your alternative for me is give to the bit. So coming back to getting that horse into that bubble of communication. It can be done from the ground. You don't need any extra equipment. Your horse is already tacked up. You've got the bridle on. You're actually teaching the horse something at the same time. So you're teaching the horse about relaxation, about negative reinforcement, about softness in the bridle, about elevating its shoulders and traveling in frame. And you're getting the horse into this bubble of communication. So rather than have the horse concentrating on what's going on outside the arena or having to stand still, again, probably concentrating on something outside the arena, rather than having the horse feel chased or chastised for doing something wrong, you're actually engaging the horse mentally. And the horse is moving forward as well. So you've got that forward movement, which is very important, much better than a backing movement. You're with the horse all the way and you're building that communication together. So by the time you get on, the horse is already relaxed, the horse is already listening, the horse is already soft in the bridle, and you've got that bubble, and now you can take that bubble and go somewhere safely with that. Anyway, so that's me for today. I will see you tomorrow. It's Friday Fitness, and we'll be in the gym, I think. Bye.